All right, this is the dream match: Cotton Weary versus Billy Loomis. Uh, who would win? This is something that I've always thought about. And I thought about it. If Billy Loomis was alive and Cotton Weary would have gotten out of prison, I can just imagine. I can just imagine what would happen. I couldn't even imagine, Cotton Weary getting his hands on Billy and doing these horrible things to him because Billy framed him. He framed him. He even said it to Sydney in Scream 1. Tell it to Cotton Weary. See how easy he was to frame. And he was easy to frame. They framed him up. They framed him for the murder of Maureen Prescott. Uh, that is insane, But just imagine if Cotton Weary would have gotten a hold of Billy if Billy would have survived the events of Scream 1. You know, just think about it. How brutal that brawl would have been. I mean, here's a man that is an innocent guy that gets framed for murder because he's having an affair with this woman who is Sydney's mother named Maureen Prescott. And you go and you look at that, and then you get this sick bastard named Billy Loomis. Of course, you got Roman. Roman's the one that embedded the blueprints in Billy because of the whole thing with Hank Loomis and Maureen having some type of love interest as well. And then it's like, even Roman had said it. He gave the kid a few pointers, and he had no idea that they were going to go out and do what they did, referring to him and Stu. But I would think, as deranged and as psychotic as Billy is, I don't think he would stand a chance one on one against Cotton Weary, with Cotton Weary being enraged with knowing that Billy framed him and was talking that smack about him to Sydney. I honestly think, Cotton Weary, he comes up in Scream 2 as, is he the killer, or is he one of the ghost faces, or is he one of the good guys? And we do find out that he is one of the good guys. And for a minute, when that one scene when Nancy Loomis had Sydney with the knife, with the buck knife, I believe it was up to her throat. The way she was trying to manipulate Cotton and stuff. We all thought that Cotton was actually going to shoot Sydney, but he shot Nancy instead. So, but I would have just loved to seen what that would have been like if the two, Billy and Cotton, would have went face to face. Who would have won? I'm big fans of both of these characters. Billy being the mastermind between him and Stu, but Cotton, I think would have been interesting just to see what he would have done, if he would have gotten his hands on Billy. Cotton, I like. He's a big, strong guy. I mean, you can actually tell that. And I think he could take Billy. I really think he could. I really think he could just beat him to a bloody pulp if he wanted to. Because anybody that's framed for murder, and the person that did it framed him and is still out there that did the killing, that'd be enough to enrage the hell out of you. There'd be enough to enrage the hell out of you. And I honestly think Billy would have been decimated by Cotton Weary. To be perfectly honest, I don't think he would even have stood a chance. But yeah, I mean, to me, I'm gonna say who I think would win it, and I already kind of hinted that off already. I think Cotton Weary could beat the living hell out of Billy Loomis. There's no doubt. You get somebody that was framed, they found out who framed him, and boom, there you are, man. I mean, that's enough to enrage anybody. But without further ado, that's all I got. This is a fun one. This is why I call it the dream match, because it's, what would have happened if Cotton would have gotten his hands on Billy. Oh man, just I got a lot of things going in my mind right now. What would potentially go on, but I'm not going to say it because it's too cruel. But I mean, I can imagine what the hell Cotton Weir would have done to Billy if he would have gotten his hands on him. But further ado, guys, that's it. That's all I got. You guys take care and see you guys back in the next one.